Alright, today we are going to check out my homemade drip irrigation system I'm going to use for my vegetable garden. Took a lot of work, a lot of planning. It's not very difficult to do. It's going to vary a lot depending on what you're going for. Yeah, I'm chewing gum. Sorry, not very professional, but again, this is just a homemade video. As you can see, I've got a pretty big section of garden. My backyard here, it's simple. PVC pipes, holes drilled into it, connected together. Just going to make a quick video of how I went about it, kind of give people an idea of maybe an easier way to water. Drip irrigation, there's really no downside to it. It's going to use less water, which if you're like me and recent years, you're going to have water restrictions throughout your summer by your local government, and you're going to focus the water on your plant. One big time-consuming and plant killing, hurting problem with gardens, vegetable gardens, is weeding. And if you could spend less time weeding and more time just focusing on your plants or other things, that's good. So you're going to focus your water supply on your plant specifically, which it'll give it a chance to absorb that, give less for weeds, use less water. I mean, it's pretty much a win-win situation, and it's actually fairly easy and pretty cheap. I'm not one who likes to make fancy promises like, oh, make this fancy system for under $1, and then it turns out half the materials I used I happen to have. So I bought all this. It's all PVC, $1.25 a 10-foot piece, and some 40-cent connectors between them. So for a solid 20, 30, 40 bucks. I mean, obviously the bigger your garden is, the more you're going to use. I'd say I have maybe a little bigger garden than most average. Just small home gardens growing a few things. So you're going to get away with less than I did. But today I'm going to show you how it came together real quick, and it turned out pretty well. So hopefully you can use it. Alright, here is what's going to help control this whole system. This is a little trial and error. An idea that started and put into practice before figuring out the whole thing. But I got a little excess here from what you'll need. This could actually be a lot smaller. Basically, hose is going to go on this end, screw on, and these are going to turn on and off simply just like your plumbing would with PVC, and control both sections of my drip system. I've got two sections because the water pressure would not last all the way to the other end, so I just turn one section off, goes to the other one, flows to the other one. Now this is pretty simple. You can, I'll get a little good close-up of this here in a minute. Just some elbows, some simple valves, a little piece of PVC in between, and so I don't forget later on, this is the only section of this whole system that I've done any gluing or on any of the threaded sections, any of the plumber's tape on. The rest of it's just going to be pressured together, snapped together, pushed together, and hasn't popped out at all. Works just fine, and that way you can take it apart, store it for the winter, or arrange it in a different way if you want to move your plants, a different section. What we got here is a T elbow. It's really pretty simple. You may not need the two areas to water here. You may only need one section, which would make this even more simple. The problem I had, and the reason I have so much extra here, which this is absolutely not necessary, is I was thinking of a threading for my hose. I bought a piece in the store, grabbed it, took it over to the same hose that I bought my hose from, screwed it in a little bit. Worked fine. I was like, oh great. Well, I didn't want to screw it too far because get it stuck in the store, embarrass myself, look like a fool. So figured that'll work just fine. Came home, put it all together, hooked it up to my hose, and lo and behold, the amount that I had screwed it in and stopped thinking I would have to tighten it too much and not be able to get it out in the store, that was the maximum it would go. So therefore I was losing way too much water pressure at that, and I had to switch this. Now what I have here is a 1/2-inch PVC. It's kind of standard, cheap PVC. It's 40 PSI. There is a little thinner PVC if you're doing maybe a smaller system, but you know, it's just cheap, plain PVC. I think it's like 40 to 600 PSI or something like that. And it's just the difference in PVC is it's 1/2 inch, but the thickness of the wall of the PVC itself, this isn't the PVC, this is the switch. Can't think of the word right now for some reason. It's just the thickness of this right here. So it's still 1/2 inch, it's just how thick it is, how much pressure it can take. So you can get a much smaller section here, but I did 1/2 inch and the pressure's been pretty good. I'll kind of get a little better dimension of an idea of what I did, because maybe you could go 3/4 inch, you know, but I would stick with 1/2 inch. It seems to have worked really well. Again, there wasn't a big science behind this, just kind of tried it out and it's worked out pretty well. Like I said, any chunks of PVC in this is where your pressure is going to come, especially when you're turning these valves. There we go, on and off. You're going to get a lot of pressure on them. You're going to want to glue that. Now, to get it to connect to a hose, I've got a slip and thread part here. This is where the PVC slips inside this piece. These little pieces, these little connectors are all 40, 50 cents a piece, 20 cents a piece maximum. And it's switched from a 1/2 inch slip, which just means that it's smooth on the inside. PVC slips into a 3/4 inch thread. And what I've done here, if I can grab it and get it over here. Okay, not going to be able to do that, so I'll show that to you in a second. I changed the end of my hose to a female end, and same that you would hook up to the spout coming out of your house, slips right on there, perfect. I mean, it's exactly what, you know, you hook to on your house. And you could really just come from either your T here, or if you had another valve, whatever you've got, how many valves, how many rows you're going to go off of, excuse me, you could come right from here, piece of PVC, then this slip and thread right there, and you could lose out on all this. But I had already had it glued together. There's really no reason to pull it apart or waste any more PVC just doing a little piece. I'm not losing any pressure or anything I feel here. So I've kept it together, but you know, that's kind of one of them trial by error things. So it'll save you a couple cents there, a couple of dollars not getting in there, and a little bit of time cutting that PVC. So I'll hook this up, show you. I'm going to run you down the lines of the PVC, just kind of give you a quick idea of what I did, and hopefully this will work out for you. It's actually, I mean, I haven't watered yet. You'll be able to see it's absolutely poured here the last couple days, so I'm going to play in the mud, planting my garden today. But I've tested out the water and I think it's going to work really well. Alright, so here's my input flow, water flow piece hooked up. Here's the little connector I put on the end of the hose, the female connector. Same that would hook to your house, pretty simple. Take a little X-Acto blade, carpenter's knife, cut off just the very end of your hose. This piece itself, $4 or $5, and real simple. Slip it over this copper piece, steel piece, whatever it is. Clamp this down on the outside, screw it on. Real simple, no leaks or anything. Screws right on there, and then it just takes it to my valves here. Like I said, you could have one, you could have 100 if you needed enough, but two's good for me. This way you just kind of control the water pressure a little more. But give you a little look, quick look. See this first row, I start right off the bat. See if I can get that. And then there's a little section there in the middle, and the second row just goes all the way over there, so none of the pressure is lost till it gets there. Now I'm actually pretty far from my house. My hose is kind of hidden all the way around the house, around the shed, so I've got close to 100 foot of hose, so I'm losing a little pressure there too, and it works pretty good for me. So it's pretty simple. I wouldn't try to engineer yourself anything too fancy, because I mean, it's water dripping out of a hole. It's pretty simple. So unless you've got a massive acreage garden, I think you'll be able to work this out pretty easily. So now I'll give you a close-up on some of the holes I've drilled, and we'll finish this up for you. Alright, I'm not going to bother you with a bunch of water coming out of holes, make it sound more complicated than it is, but I did want to show you what's going on here. Basically, you know, you decide how you've got your plants, you want to plant them. You're gonna put a couple of holes, like a tomato plants, pepper plants. I've got them 3 foot apart, and for each plant I've got 3 holes. You know, that way it's not one hole just watering right there. You got to get a little bit around it. Now, the smallest bit that the hardware store down the street had was a 1/16 inch. You can experiment with different sizes, but I think if you're going to get, you do want to do a small. If you're going to get too big of a hole, you're really going to lose a lot of pressure, especially if you're going to have a bigger system. But I'll show you now, just basically, I mean, it's just water coming out of a hole, but let's see if I can get a good angle there. You can see I'm going to plant a couple plants here. I think there's going to be maybe some kale going over here. I'm not sure. I can't remember what's going over here. But you see it's flowing pretty good. Now this is the very first hole on the system. So there's a lot more pressure here than the others. The others drip and kind of leak out a little more. One thing, I mean, even as we go down this same line here, we'll see, you know, it's a lot less pressure. Now, one thing I've learned just by picking it up, you might see they drip a little less. You want to keep this as flat as possible. We'll go over here to the end. I'm getting a little more. Am I getting that on there? See, I pick it up and it stops dripping. Really works out pretty darn well. I've got, you know, if you want more specifics about how many spots I have or holes, I could let you know. I don't want to bore you with that. Just kind of experiment with it. I've even got a section right here that's, I'm going to do radishes and carrots, and I kind of messed up drilling a hole every inch where I'm going to plant the radishes. But I put it on the end of the system so there's a lot less pressure, so it's not going to just be soaking the ground. But I've got 5 rows on this one. There's 2 10-foot sections, so there's 100 foot of pipe. You know, another 15 foot connecting the pipes. Flows through them all the way till the end. And I've actually got 7 sections on the other half, but there's not near, I don't have the kale or the lettuce or the radishes and stuff where I've got a lot more holes. I've got a lot less holes with bigger plants that are separated apart. And those actually, I have some 25 foot sections and 20 foot sections, so I put 7 and 5. And really just experiment. The thing is, if you got too much water pressure, or not enough water pressure, I mean, all I'd have to do is connect another section. You don't make it 3 sections instead of 2, or if you had 1, make it 2 sections instead of 1. I mean, and you could still go off of the same valve. You wouldn't have to make a whole different piece. You'd have to just pop it out and put it on the next one, you know. But it's quicker. I mean, you're watering right on your plant. Like, this is, I'm really hoping this is going to turn out well. I'm actually very excited about it. So, and I'll update you, let you know how it goes. But this should last. I mean, as long as PVC is going to last, you can leave it outside in the rain. It's been out in the rain the last couple of days. Snaps together. I've had no problems with the T's at the end of the rows coming off, or the sleeves that connect. And that's all I've done. I didn't do any plumber's tape, screwing any of the PVC together or anything. I guess I can show you that. Just a simple little sleeve. Both PVC slip right in there. You're gonna wanna, this is something I guess I should have made sure I pointed out, cap off each row. Just a cap, pops right on there. Got it on the end of every one, that way you can keep your pressure in your system. Give you one last quick look at this. Got the PVC, slips onto a slip T. So all these just slip right in here, just push them right in there. And just continues that way down the whole thing. Now, I'm gonna plant, and then I'm gonna straighten this as much as possible. You can see all these pipes kind of bow and bend around. Doesn't hurt it at all. I mean, they're pretty flexible, but it really does seem to mess with the water pressure. I want everything to be as straight as possible. So here's a homemade drip irrigation system, and rather easy, and should produce rather well. Use less water and produce better plants and take less time weeding, which is pretty much #1 to me, and I'm assuming #1 to a lot of other people. So good luck. Any specific questions, just ask. Drill your holes just like you'd plant your plants. That's the only thing it takes, is a little planning ahead of time. knowing exactly where you're going to plant your plants, because you've got to plant them. But this is exactly why I'm going to run the water now. I've got my diagram of what I'm going to do. I'm just going to plant where my water is and watch it grow. So just go off of this. Something simple. If you want anything more specific, you know, you're going to have to do some engineering. I just put some PVC together and drilled some holes, and it worked out pretty well. Fairly easy, nothing complicated. Good luck doing it yourself, and eat those vegetables.